Live on Periscope, I'm sure live on Twitch, and slowly but surely live on YouTube. What's going on? Welcome. January 1st, 2020. Feels weird to say. NBA Deeper Dive, and you're getting the best possible crew today. Myself, Adam Scher, a.k.a. Shit My Money. We're going to be breaking down this 3.5 game slate. Thanks to FanDuel for leaving this six o'clock game out of it. I don't even mean that sarcastically. It would have just made everything worse for sure. So happy about that, and happy to do the first deeper dive of 2020. Adam, how are you? Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, man. Doing well. New Year's Eve was relaxing, so for the first time in probably a while, I don't feel awful on New Year's Day, which is always nice. But yeah, on one hand, I wish we had more games to talk about, but on the other hand, I think you and I had mentioned it yesterday. If we had like a real full slate on New Year's Day, it would probably be a nightmare. So
yeah,
not too upset about it.
No, I am not. I'm not mad about it at all. I'd like another game or two. If we're being honest, this isn't exactly an illustrious affair today. Whoa, was that a real statement that Paul in YouTube chat just made? David Stern died.
Oh, wow.
Brain hemorrhage 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I knew about that. I just hadn't heard any updates.
Wow.
Damn.
I mean, that guy changed the NBA.
Yep.
R.I.P. David Stern. Whew. Thanks to Paul. Well, I guess Corn Dog and Buckeye Fan for Life got to it before that, but just Paul is the guy that I saw. I saw it first from YouTube chat. So, wow. Rest in peace, man. You did a hell of a job. Now we got Adam Silver, and it's better. It's the best I can do. We've got 4 games to talk about. 3 on FanDuel, 4 on DK. We've got a lot of intricacy to this slate, including a 17.5-point line in Milwaukee. Well, hopefully we'll get some good juju from David Stern for this. I could use it. Maybe he's got a little bit of insight into why I'm getting so much Poshniks, but we shall get there. First and foremost, though, I want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Yahoo Sports. I am going to drop a link to Emacs Cash Building Blocks article for today. Check out today's article, read it, get yourself an idea on how this slate looks, and then head to the bottom, click the link, use the promo code AWESOMO, get yourself $30 in YSRPs. That's Yahoo Sports Rewards points. You're going to have CSV edits like normal, lower management fees, softer competition. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's an excellent place to play. Anytime you can spend a little bit less on the management fee, you're going to be a little bit better off. So I highly recommend you check that out. And then finally, we have 2 promos going on. First of which is on my screen right now. It's the promo code New Year. You can get 20% off your first year of Awesemo Platinum. That's our yearly package. That's $200 off all access. It includes projections, ownership, rankings, boom bust, lineup builder for essentially every sport. You cannot beat it. If you were looking to take a big leap into awesemo.com, using the promo code New Year is the code you should use. If that's too big of a leap for you, use the promo code 2020, 2020. You can get an all-access Awesemo Plus Platinum membership for $20, and you get 20 days of access. Both of these promos are only valid until January 10th, so please check it out. There are links in chat as of right now. You could also go check out the tweets at awesemo_com for a little bit more information on both promos. So check them out. New Year or 2020, either one will get you a little bit of a discount at awesemo.com. Man, to talk that long really makes my throat hurt. I'm really excited to drink a little bit more of this tea. You ready to start with your Wizards? Because they're a blast to talk about.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Washington Wizards, Orlando Magic. Magic are 4-point favorites in Washington. As of right now, we do not have official news on Bradley Beal. I am of the assumption that he is going to play today. I have no reason why I'm assuming that other than he's just Bradley Beal and he usually does.
He practiced yesterday.
That'll also work. So with that assumption in mind, I'm just going to throw it to you right away. What stands out to you from this Washington team because I'm having a hard time figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, assuming Beal is in. The pricing has come up on pretty much everyone over the last couple of games with Beal being out. And once you bring him back, not only are you funneling a lot of usage to him, but it makes the minutes really, really tough to predict. It makes it so the most likely situation, I think, is that Brooks kind of rides the hot hand between like 5 or 6 guys. You know, we saw, for example, Gary Payton play 14 minutes last game without Beal. That's obviously in the range of outcomes, but if he's playing really well, we've seen him play huge minutes when Beal's in. So, him, McRae, Troy Brown, Isaiah Thomas, and Nish Smith to some extent. I think all those guys, if Beal is in, their minutes become much less secure, in addition to losing usage because Beal is going to shoot if he's in. On top of that, not a very appealing matchup against a slow Orlando team. So if Beal is in, looking at the Wizards for me, it's mostly, I think Beal is fine. He's only 8,700 on DraftKings. You obviously have the efficiency concerns and also, I guess some injury concerns to some extent. But the minutes should be there, and he's reasonably priced. Beyond that, you're going to get 48 minutes most likely from Hinmi and Pasek Sneaks, but I don't love either of those guys. So it's really not an appealing team for me, assuming Beal is in.
I agree. Having a hard time, having any confidence in really anyone's minutes outside of Jan Mahinmi. Like, I think Jan Mahinmi's minutes are the easiest ones to project just because they're going to try to play him the bulk of the center minutes and do the opposite for AP. Obviously, if Beal is in, we know that his minutes are really the most steady, but that's neither here nor there. Beal doesn't count. He's one of the few actual NBA players on this team. If Beal is out, does anybody just immediately jump out to you? What do we do with Garrison Matthews, who went crazy in the last game? Does Gary Payton continue to not play? What do we do here?
So if Beal is out, the minutes situation, it obviously changes because you're taking 36, 37 minutes away. But the fact that the minutes are going to be probably pretty volatile, that doesn't really change. Like, if Gary Payton's playing well and Garrison Matthews isn't shooting like he's Steph Curry, Gary Payton's going to play more minutes and Matthews is going to play less. But the one thing that does change and is really beneficial is that you're just getting a ton of usage going to guys like Jordan McRae, going to Troy Brown, going to Isaiah, to some extent to Ish. So it at least gives them a chance to be more productive when they are on the floor. I think DraftKings has done a pretty decent job of pricing guys up. If Beal is out, I think Troy Brown is the guy that I probably get to first on DraftKings, him or Isaiah. But I think Brown's minutes should be more consistent, assuming he's not in massive foul trouble this entire game. And his usage takes a huge bump when Beal's not on the floor. So the offense would run more through McRae, Brown. You'd get more usage for Isaiah as well if Beal is out, obviously.
This is going to be a disaster. So let's say this. Who do you like from Washington, regardless of Beal's status?
Well, regardless, then nobody, because if Beal's out, I don't like Beal.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you would say like, I'll have like Troy. I'm going to have X amount of Troy Brown, regardless of Beal's status. Like, who are the guys that transcend whether Beal is in or out? Who's the expected closing lineup for this team? Because that's really what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, I mean, the expected closing lineup if Beal's in would be, and again, this is even kind of guessing, but I would assume one of Isaiah or Smith, Beal, either McRae or Payton, probably depending on the score.
I thought you froze.
No, I'm just... Yeah. One of McRae or Payton, probably. Payton if they're ahead, McRae if they're behind, Brown, and then one of Mahinmi or Pasek Sneaks.
Okay.
Probably Mahinmi.
Okay.
Does that sound right? I don't think I forgot anyone.
I mean, if Garrison Matthews is going to continue to be the newfound man.
Well, right. I mean, if Garrison Matthews is making every shot, he'll play. There's some... I mean, there's a...
That was mostly a joke, but it's also half serious.
Right. I mean, but also, like, against this team, you could go, especially if Orlando runs the same rotation they ran last time, where for most of their closing minutes they had DJ Augustine alongside Fultz, you can go Isaiah, Ish, Beal at the 3, and then Brown and Mahinmi. So like there's just so many ways that this team can close. The main thing for me is that the pricing has come up. So if Beal's in, you're talking about rising pricing on everyone except for Beal and decreased usage on all of them. So none of them really end up being appealing at all.
Okay. If Beal is in, we have him right now at 8,700. There's not really a ton of guys around him from a price perspective. How would you compare Bradley Beal to, say, Dame Lillard, $500 more expensive? There aren't really any guards below him that match up. He's kind of on an island in pricing.
Yeah, I have them pretty comparable in terms of their salaries. Like I have Beal projected, a 1.5, 2 points behind Lillard, but Lillard's obviously a little bit more expensive. For the season, Beal has averaged 1.22 DraftKings points per minute. I more or less projected him at his season rates because even though it's not the same team as it has been for a lot of the season, it's not like Rui is a really high usage guy. Neither is Bertans. Neither is Bryant. You're getting more minutes now from guys like Troy Brown, Jordan McRae, Isaiah's in the lineup. So I think the usage at this point probably evens out reasonably well. I don't want to be doing something like projecting Beal for 38 or 40% usage now that McRae is back and Isaiah is back. So I projected him pretty much at his season average here. The minutes are obviously appealing and the price tag is low. I like the matchup more for Lillard, and he gets big minutes as well. So I think I would give a slight edge to Dame, but the most important thing for me between those two will probably end up being ownership.
Okay. Just getting text messages from my college roommates now about David Stern dying and if we ever had him in our death pool and how amazing it would have been to have him and get a death on day 1 of the new year, which would have been just super legendary. Sorry, David Stern. I'm pretty sure you did get drafted in one of the final years. Let's move to Orlando now. I've got a lot of interest in this team, and I don't get the sense that I'm going to be in the minority here. That's what happens when you face Washington. Based on our last ownership update, let me just double check to see if we've gotten another one since. We have not. So in the original ownership, we had 6 guys in double digits. Vooch, Isaac, Fournier, Fultz, Augustine, Ross. That should make perfect sense to most people. I'm just going to open it up to you there. Who stands out most to you from Orlando?
I like all of them. 4 of my highest owned guys in Cruncher were from Orlando. I think that the rotation last game was interesting, and I'm assuming Aaron Gordon sits. He's still questionable last I saw, but from quotes and stuff, it sounds like it would be kind of surprising if he played. You had Evan Fournier and Vooch pretty much stagger their minutes. So you get a little bit of a usage bump for Vooch and a little bit of a usage bump for Fournier. That's enough to make both of them stand out in obviously a really favorable matchup. They're the 2 guys that I'm the most confident in. Jonathan Isaac is fine. He's just not, no matter who's on the floor, he's just not a high usage guy. So you are hoping that he gets there in terms of blocks. And then with this game not being on the FanDuel slate, you lose the site where he's always the most appealing play because of him being a small forward that piles up blocks. So I think that Vooch and Fournier grade out as the two best options for me. But then when you start looking at roster construction, you start considering salary, there's a lot of value here too, where you have a $4,200 Terrence Ross, who I have projected at 28 minutes, who can shoot the lights out and is in a great spot to do so. DJ Augustine played over 28 minutes last game, played a lot of minutes alongside Markelle Fultz, which is something that they can do in the spot as well, and I would expect them to. So, with him at 4,500 on DraftKings, it's another, value guy that you can get to. So those guys are showing up in lineups for me a lot as well.
Okay. If you're flipping a coin, so to speak, between Fultz and Augustine, we had Fultz at 21% ownership. We had Augustine at 12. How do you feel about those numbers in relationship to those 2 guys?
So I have Fultz projected about 1.5 ahead of Augustine. With ownership how we had it, as of this morning when I ran my DraftKings crunch, I got to very little Fultz, and I'm going to assume a lot of Augustine. Okay. I ended up with 67% combined ownership between them, but 3 of it went to Fultz.
I'm looking at that the crunch that I ran before the show started. Fournier, Ross, Isaac, Augustine are 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th in my ownership. They're all right around like 40%. So lots of Orlando. Vooch coming in 2 spots below that as well. So it's going to be really hard. Fultz appears to be the guy that I like the least out of anybody from Orlando, but it's looking like I'm going to have quite a bit of the Magic here, and I'm not mad about that at all. I think they're going, if our ownership is to be believed, I think they're going a bit over or under-owned rather for this type of matchup.
Yeah, I agree with that. One rule that I do think you should set is you probably don't want more than 2 of Fultz, Augustine, Ross. If you look at the rotation they ran against Atlanta, and I think it makes all the sense in the world, you weren't getting more than 2 of them in the closing lineup. So you kind of got offense defense towards the end between Augustine and Ross, but you assume that the closing lineup here is going to be 2 of those 3 plus Fournier plus Isaac plus Vooch.
Yes, absolutely. We are on the same page there. Ross is just too damn cheap at 4,200 for what he can do. He can break it all. I have the target score at 36. Like, to see Terrence Ross put up a 36-point fantasy day, it's like, okay, yeah, that doesn't even feel remotely close to a ceiling. Which is
I just I just re-ranked those DraftKings lineups I made and took a minute away from Ross and a minute away from Augustine to see if that would have how much of an impact that would have on the Fultz ownership. Fultz ended up going from like 3 to 5%. Augustine dropped from 64 to 52. So with the ownership how we have it right now, where Fultz is almost 2x Augustine ownership, I would end up getting a lot more Augustine.
Anything else you want to touch on in this game? I wanted to compare Beal to Orlando, but there's no comparison point.
Yeah, there really isn't. I don't think you need a 3K guy. I have Wes Iwundu in for 28 minutes. I have him in for like a little shy of 16 DraftKings points. So certainly not a really high upside option.
Man, that's how you know this slate is just a steaming pile of garbage, because you can project a flat minimum guy on DraftKings for 28 minutes and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get this dude.
Against the Wizards.
Right. In a fantastic spot. You couldn't put together a better scenario without just taking out like 5 more Magic guys.
Yeah, I'm guessing, did our ownership projections this morning have Gordon in? Because we only have Iwundu at 3%.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it does. We have Gordon at 10%.
Like I said, yes, it does. Maybe you should have listened closer.
I was going to say, right now I'm double the field on Iwundu at 6%. That seems a little weird.
Malevolent Elephant doesn't like my Ross at 36 points. Not a real ceiling take. He only has 1 game over 36 in his last 15. Amazing to know.
How many of those games were against the Wizards?
Yeah. Why are we stopping at 15? Is it because his 16th game he did it? Because I'm guessing it is.
I mean, Ross has sucked this year. Like, he's had trouble getting open looks. It's been in large part a function of the Orlando offense struggling. But we have a really long track record on this guy. We know that he's like a poor man's Lou Williams, basically off the bench at 4,200 facing the Wizards without Michael Carter-Williams or potentially Aaron Gordon, which opens the door for him to get upper 20s in minutes. Like, the usage has been down this year from previous years, and so is his production. But with scorers like that, you have to keep in mind that part of the reason the usage is down is that he just hasn't been getting looks. The offense hasn't done a good job of that. And to some extent, that's going to change when you face the worst, what is at this point possibly the worst defense to ever play in the NBA.
Exactly. Thank you to Dave Blakeney for the super chat, celebrating having the same DFS record this year and decade as Adam and Josh. I expect that will change in the next few hours. You obviously didn't play any DFS Premier League this morning, so get in line, man. Get in line. I'm at the top of this.
I was going to say, you're obviously not aware of how my basketball season is going if you're celebrating being on the same page as me.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what else to say there. You did it. Alrighty. Let's keep it moving. I don't have anything else for Wiz Magic. Knicks Blazers. Boy. Blazers 4-point favorites in New York. We're going to start on the New York side. I haven't seen any additional news, but what What did I want to do? Who's the name? Frank Ntilikina, questionable. Dennis Smith Jr., questionable. Remembering which one of these point guards is the one that still plays and the one that doesn't, really difficult off the top of my head. This team sucks. I hate them so much. So for me right now, we were projecting big-time ownership to RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Elfrid Payton on FanDuel. A little bit less so on DK. Nobody over 20%. I don't have a ton of interest in the Knicks guys on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's mostly just Randle and Payton, but I'm not really all that enamored with the Knicks in general. Talk to me about New York.
I really like Randle just because in competitive games, he's playing huge minutes. Like, I have him at 35 minutes, and I don't like, I think it could be a little bit higher just because in the competitive games, you're getting 36, 37 minutes. But at the same time, obviously New York is involved in their share of blowouts. He's averaged 32.2 since the coaching change. But since the coaching change, 1.23 DraftKings points per minute, 28.5% usage, 14.5% rebounding percentage, 15% assist percentage, all numbers that look really good for Randle. Portland's been the 5th least efficient defense over the last month. Melo isn't anything I'm particularly concerned with on the defensive end. So I like Randle. I like Payton because I think the mid-range of point guards is pretty bare. Like, I'm getting to, we'll talk about it in the next game, obviously, but I'm getting to a good amount of Eric Bledsoe, which is someone who I think has virtually no floor. So getting some Payton in there makes a lot of sense to me as well. Again, not a bad matchup. Payton's playing around 32 minutes in competitive games. So I think he's fine. I think Morris, where you have to roster a small forward, makes sense as well. Barrett's the guy out of the starters, excluding Gibson, that I'm actually the lowest on, though.
I'm with you. I'm not entirely sure I see it. 38% owned on FanDuel right now. I can't imagine getting to that much, even knowing that it's a 3-game slate. That still seems way too high. Should not be comparable to CJ McCollum or Devin Booker or Chris Middleton, in my opinion. We just got a little bit of faux news. Bradley Beal game time decision. Doesn't really matter all that much, but I'd prefer to just know in or out.
Right. I mean, the news matters. That information is useless.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I get to a lot of the Knicks. Let's see what came up in that original DraftKings crunch. This should be good. 20% Elfrid Payton, 11% Julius Randle, 5% Marcus Morris.
I had it in my initial DraftKings, and I was actually in the process of lowering Randle a little bit, but 43% Randle. Payton was at 15. Barrett, I got like none. And who else? Morris. Like 37 on Morris.
Shout out to Coach S. Big time super chat. Happy New Year, gentlemen. Why's everybody got to hate? Your staff at Osimo is clearly the best NBA folks around. That is a very true statement. I mean, one of these two hosts are clearly the best around.
Yeah, you kind of beat me to the joke. You can have it.
Good, I needed it. Got to start 2020 off right.
Mine was going to be a lot sharper and better, but you can take it.
Not a lot regarding the NBA that's been better and sharper lately. Now that's better and sharper. But like fucking Kermit taking a sip of my tea there. Do you have anything else from the Knicks?
No.
All right. Let's go to Portland. Oh, man. So earlier today on the strategy show with Sal Vetri, check it out, 9:30 Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday soon enough. I was not a gigantic fan of Carmelo Anthony. I took a lap through all of my Portland rates, and unfortunately, I am now a bigger fan of Carmelo Anthony than I was earlier today, which is kind of a bummer because he's been atrocious. We have Lillard, Whiteside, McCollum, and Melo all getting a decent chunk of ownership into the 30s on FanDuel, into the mid-20s on DraftKings. Anthony Simons also picking up a little bit of love in the teens. Not sure I see that one. But for right now, I think Carmelo Anthony might be my favorite trailblazer. But either way, having a lot of those four guys seems like it's going to be in my future.
Yeah, Portland's one of my favorite teams on the slate. It's a bad New York defense. I like that Portland's on the road just because there's a better chance this game stays competitive. And really, the thing that puts it over the top is just how many minutes you get from everyone on Portland. Lillard should play around 38 in a competitive game. Same goes for McCollum. Whiteside's been pushing 34 plus in competitive games, still missing his primary backup in Scal. And then you're getting like 36 plus from Melo too. So all four of those guys, the minutes just seem really, really secure. I think that, as far as value goes, Anthony Simons should play mid-20s at close to minimum salary. Bazemore was losing minutes to him and Gary Trent last game. I have Bazemore in at 28. I think that those minutes, certainly could fluctuate, but also playing alongside the starters isn't really appealing for him anyway. So the main four from the starting lineup, excluding Bazemore, and then I think Simons are the five that I'm getting to the most from Portland.
Okay. I didn't get to much Simons, just 8%, which is less than what we had the field at, but I'm okay with that. Whiteside, actually, the guy that I got the most of, 49% on my original crunch. It's just really hard to get away from these guys. The minutes are so massive, and to be able to bet on what amounts to guaranteed playing time is a pretty big boon on a 4-game slate.
Yeah, and on FanDuel, obviously, it's even easier to get to Whiteside because you don't have Vooch on the slate. But I think that, one thing with Whiteside to keep in mind is, like his salary really, really increased, but he was so underpriced that doesn't mean he's overpriced now. It just means that he's not like the most obvious play on the slate anymore. But he's still averaging 1.4 points per minute over the last month. He's been in that range since Melo joined the team, and the minutes are up. So that combined with a perfectly fine matchup against the Knicks, I still think he's a really good play.
Vooch or Whiteside?
I have a little bit more Whiteside right now. I have them projected exactly the same.
Okay. I have...
Oh, sorry, a little more Vooch. Did I say Whiteside?
You did.
Okay, yeah, I have a little more Vooch right now.
I have a little bit more Whiteside as of right now. Grades out a little bit better, so I expect that to stick, but both very close. Are either of those... Would you take either, or would you take Julius Randle ahead of either of those guys?
I have Randle behind both. I have Randle at 35 minutes. I have Vooch and Whiteside at 34 apiece. On DraftKings, I have Whiteside at 43.4, Vooch at 43.3, and then Randle at 41.3. But they are all three looking like three of my highest owned players.
Alrighty. Don't think that there's anything else that we need to touch on here from Knicks Blazers.
I don't.
Question from Dom Rab.
So.
Would you play Simons over Napier or Rondo as a point guard 2 on FanDuel? Napier, no. Rondo, sure.
Rondo's pretty comparable, I think.
Yeah, Rondo is $600 more expensive than Simons on FanDuel. Simons is the flat minimum, if that matters at all. But Napier, not comparable to those two guys, at least not in my opinion.
No, I mean, Napier has all kinds of risks that we'll talk about, but looking between Simons and Rondo, I have them close. Like I have Simons like 3 points behind Rondo, but if that $600 gets you better plays, I think that's perfectly fine.
Perfect opportunity for everybody to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Coming up after this in a half hour, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Fast Eddie Fear live from Mexico, joining me for Live Before Lock. We'll be taking you guys all the way up to 6 p.m. and the tip-off of the Washington Wizards Orlando Magic game. But that's not all for today. Golf is back. Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin, 8:30 Eastern Time tonight on our channel, talking about the Century Tournament of Champions. They will be back for the first time in a couple weeks now. So PGA is slowly but surely coming back. Don't be afraid to use those promo codes if you want to sign up. New year, you want 20% off your first year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's the yearly package, $200 off all access. Or just trying to get your feet wet, use the promo code 2020, $20 for 20 days of Platinum Awesemo Plus. Milwaukee Bucks, Minnesota Timberwolves. The Bucks are 17.5-point favorites at home. This is one of the trickier games that we will be able to, I don't know what, handicap, I don't know what the proper breakdown, whatever it is. This is a tough one. Let's start on the Milwaukee side. We were projecting pretty heavy ownership for Giannis earlier today. Middleton as well on FanDuel. Bledsoe getting some love at 5,600. The floor is yours, man. What in the world do we do with the Bucks? They've blown out basically everybody they've played all season. By all accounts, they're going to do it again against a team that is missing all of their legitimate NBA players. What do we do?
Yeah, and the other thing that makes it really interesting to me is even if you kind of look beyond this game, like obviously Milwaukee should just absolutely destroy Minnesota here, and you shouldn't get full minutes from Giannis. But it's also not like it's some lot like the Lakers are double-digit favorites at home against Phoenix. So it's not like LeBron is guaranteed to play his full run either, which is just another thing that kind of makes it unpredictable. Basically, what I ended up doing was I projected the Bucks for their average minutes. Obviously, if this game somehow stayed close, you would get like 34 from Giannis, and he probably breaks the slate. But I have him at 30 minutes. I have Middleton in the same range. I went 24 on Bledsoe. I went 26 on DiVincenzo, 26 on Lopez. Basically, just the one nice thing about Milwaukee in these spots is that they're the best team on the floor pretty much every time they play. They blow out a large percentage of their opponents. So their season-long averages do reflect it to a pretty good extent.
I have 12 guys getting minutes today for the Bucks, and I don't even feel weird about it.
I think I did the same thing.
Yeah, and you can pretty much randomize some of those numbers.
Oh, God, I just saw how much Pat Connaughton I have on DraftKings.
Yeah. Wizards will start Thomas, Peyton II, Williams, and Mahinmi on Wednesday. Fifth starter will be Beal or Brown, depending on Beal's availability. Aaron Gordon ruled out.
We have a good Scott Brooks quote as well. If Beal does play, we will consider starting him.
I bet they will. Michael Jordan fans are the worst NBA fans. That's a quote in YouTube chat right now. Apparently he has never heard of Kobe Bryant. Whew.
Fair point.
Amazing. All right, let's get back to Milwaukee. If Giannis Antetokounmpo is projected for 33% ownership on DraftKings like he is right now, how does that affect your day?
I am getting less than that. I got him in about 20%. Overall, I didn't pay up as much across the board as our current ownership projections have. I'm underweight on Giannis, LeBron, and Davis. I have a little bit more Giannis than Davis, a little bit less Giannis than LeBron. But overall, I just kind of got more exposure to mid-range guys like Randall, Whiteside, Vooch. Giannis, obviously, but it's a 4-game slate. Raw points still are really important. I have Giannis as the top scorer on the slate in 30 minutes. I don't think that and it's a good matchup. Minnesota doesn't play well defensively. You're still talking about a team with a 120 total and the leading usage guy on the team. So you should never be looking at this and saying like Giannis is a bad play. It's just there's a ton of risk, obviously, of not getting his full minutes. I have him projected for 57.5 DraftKings points, which is still perfectly fine. If his ownership were to come down in our next update, I'd be happy getting a little bit more of him.
Yeah, as of right now, I have like 7 or 8%, and
yeah, that's less than me.
I'm not like wildly upset about that. It's scary to not have someone like that in more of my lineups, but of all the teams, like I'm pretty comfortable thinking he's just not going to play all that much.
The other thing that scares me for him, and it's different again than predicting blowouts. Milwaukee's so good at resting him in game as well when it's not competitive. Like even if this is like let's say it's like a 15-point game for the not entire game, but like going into the fourth quarter, there's a reasonably good chance he plays like 12 or 13 first half minutes.
Yeah. He just doesn't need to be out there.
Right. But yeah, like I'm pretty happy coming in.
Does he put up a big enough score to be relevant from raw points?
And I think the answer to that is that that's reasonably likely, because the only guys at the top that he's really competing with are LeBron and Davis, who, like I'd said before, they're less likely to blow out the Suns, but there's still a decent chance that happens. On top of that, the Giannis can just go for 2 fantasy points per minute. I'm pretty comfortable right now, getting 15 to 20% Giannis, having enough lineups where if he is the top raw scorer, I'm not in terrible shape, but also not having my entire night depend on it.
Okay, so let's touch a little bit more on the rest of these guys. DraftKings doesn't seem to be the spot where the ownership is coming in. Middleton 15, Bledsoe 15, DiVincenzo 17. FanDuel, you're getting a little bit more on those same guys, plus you're getting to Brook Lopez a bit more. He gets opened up a bit. Who's going to be the biggest benefactor from blowing out Minnesota?
I don't really know that. I mean, Pat Connaughton's the guy that kind of jumps out for me right now. Like, I have him at 22 minutes. I think that if this were like a competitive down to the wire game, it's probably like 16 to 18. But he played 26 against Chicago in their last game, I believe, going from memory on that one. But I think 4 to 6 of that was blowout run. The thing about Connaughton that scares me, like I just mentioned, I had a ton of him and I'm cutting his minutes back a little bit, is that Sterling Brown can take those minutes. Kyle Korver can take those minutes. So it's not like his minutes are secure. He has been playing a bigger role in the rotation recently. And again, that's also depending Wesley Matthews sits, or assuming Wesley Matthews sits. So I think Connaughton at 3,600 on DraftKings at reasonably low ownership is a risky option, but one that I don't mind making on a slate where I don't think there's a lot of really good cheap value.
119.5 implied total for the Bucks today, highest number on the slate, and I am terrified to play every single player from their team.
Right. I don't have anybody on the team projected for more than 30 minutes.
No, neither do I. I have Middleton at 30. That's the highest number.
Actually, I have Middleton at 32, but that's only because I'm not going to get any anyway, probably.
And now we have to talk about basically the exact opposite scenario, the Minnesota Timberwolves. As of right now, we have 5 guys from Minnesota on FanDuel projected north of 20% ownership, including Robert Covington at 50%, Shabazz Napier and Gorgui Dieng both in the high 30s. We've got Keelan Martin projected for 30% on DraftKings. That one I'm not sure I see. Gorgeous Dong in the 20s. Bobby Covington at 15%. Insert your deflected passes joke here for Laffy. And then Jarrett Culver is at 11%. I like Culver more than I like anything on Minnesota from DraftKings, so I'm a little intrigued to see where you want to go, but there's just a lot of minutes to go around for this Minnesota Timberwolves team today.
I don't really want to go to any of them on DraftKings. They still have plenty of bodies, and Ryan Saunders is just running really, really, really deep rotations. They called up Jalen Noel from the G League, so that's another body they have. If Graham is out, they still have him to give like 18 to 20 minutes to. If Vonleh is out, you still have Reed and you have Bell. I don't have anyone on this team projected over 30 minutes. I think I have Keelan Martin at 30. I have Napier at 28. I have Culver at 30. I have Dieng at 28 or 30. I have Covington at 28 or 30. Like they're just not playing. They're not giving big minutes to these guys. And then on top of that, obviously there's plenty of blowout risk, like we talked about.
Why so low on Covington? 35, 35, and 40 the last 3 times he's been on the floor.
Well, the last game was overtime.
Even call it 30 then.
Yeah, because I don't trust this rotation at all.
That's fair. That's fair. No complaints. I have him at 32 right now, and
yeah,
I still don't get like an overwhelming amount. I would get a lot more on FanDuel given the roster construction and the $5,100 price tag. Like Napier for $4,800 on FanDuel. That's just a broken price. Even if we're nervous about minutes, he's $1,000 cheaper than he is on DraftKings.
Yep, I think Napier's a really good play on FanDuel. I think Culver's a good play on FanDuel at 4,100 at small forward too.
Right.
On DraftKings though, I think the pricing is pretty good. Like Culver gets more usage without Wiggins, Teague, or Towns on the floor, but it doesn't make him good. It doesn't make him not playing the Bucks. So, and he's at a price point where he actually has to play well to be a good play.
The thing that concerns me is I feel like Culver's on the floor no matter what happens in this game. And I don't know if that's true or just a feeling or whatever.
I just don't trust that anyone's on the floor no matter whether it's close, not close.
I get it. It is a wholly unappealing situation. 102 implied total against arguably the best regular season team in the league. We'll see how that ends up in the playoffs, but going to be tricky. How much are you going to have of these guys? Because I'm going to have a lot.
Sorry, by the way, the 40 for Covington was also 30 in regulation.
How many overtime games are they playing?
Yeah, they played double overtime against the Kings and then single overtime against the Nets.
Okay.
Covington did lose some playing time to foul trouble potentially in that Kings game, but he also played the entire fourth, so it probably evened out.
Okay. Appreciate you.
But yeah, on DraftKings, I'm just not planning on getting to much. Like, I got to like 7% Napier. Culver, I got to less than that. Jang, I think, is another one. He's a better FanDuel play than DraftKings play because on DraftKings you have Vooch, on FanDuel you don't. So yeah, it's on DraftKings I'm pretty much just not getting Minnesota. On FanDuel I know I'll have more just because there's fewer games and more appealing pricing.
I have quite a bit more than what you just described. Napier at 16, Martin, Jang, Covington, all in the 20s. And probably going to need to twist the dials a little bit because 68.7% Jarrett Culver feels a skosh too high.
Yeah. But, and if $4,000 Keelan Martin is needed to win this slate, then I'm just going to lose. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. That he took a bit of a price bump. Does Culver not interest you at all, even if he's 11% owned?
I got one.
Okay, that'll do it. It just seems like shockingly low to me.
I have him at 30 minutes and 23.2 DraftKings points.
I have him at 30 minutes and 28.1 DraftKings points.
Why do you have so many points?
What do you have his usage at?
24.
Okay, I have 25. Maybe I'll have to dig into this a little bit more. I was just waiting for you to be like 18. And I was like, all right, well, then there we go.
No, I bumped the usage. I just didn't make him a good NBA player.
That's fair. 0.84 fantasy points over his last 30 days.
He's played 154 minutes this season without Wiggins, Teague, or Towns. He's averaged 0.71 DraftKings points.
Bad shooting luck, I think.
Or bad shooter.
Also true.
If you let Teague be on the floor, you get up to 233 minutes, 0.79 points per minute.
If his ownership,
terrible shooting numbers, like the ceiling is there because he's going to get the opportunities, but he's playing a really good defense and he's really bad.
It's hard for me to disagree. If his ownership stays around 11% on DraftKings, I know that I'm going to be north of the field. If that happens to climb, that'll be one of the first things that go away.
Yeah, for me, it's what it looks like is happening with me is that I'm just preferring getting on DraftKings. I definitely prefer Augustine over Culver, so that's one guy at the same positions basically that I can roster. Terrence Ross is also cheaper than Culver. I'd rather get DiVincenzo at 4K. I'd rather get Rondo at 4K.
Rondo.
Yeah.
Wow. That one we're not on the same page for.
I have Rondo like 3 points lower than Culver in 12 less minutes.
I can get there with you on everybody but Rondo. That one's just, you're on drugs.
Yeah, I'm getting more Bridges than Culver. I'm getting more Connaughton than Culver. I have more Okogie than Culver, which that needs to change. But don't need him.
Jason Holland. I'm with Josh. Culver is a must. Finally found someone that's smart.
I have more Simons than Culver.
Damn. All right. I wish
Culver sucks.
He's not great. But 0.84 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days. I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, FanDuel, it's a little better because it's small forward. You don't have Isaac. I mean, obviously, there are going to be some builds where you want to just get LeBron and Giannis. You still have Melo.
For 4,100 at small forward.
Yeah.
It's a different question. For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. There's just on DraftKings, I just don't see it.
I'm certainly not comfortable, but lucky for me, I've got Fast Eddie Fear coming up in 13 minutes, and I'm going to have plenty of time to dig into that. Anything else from Minnesota, Milwaukee?
No.
Do we need to touch on anything if, like, does anything open up to you if, say, Vonleh and Travion Graham both get scratched out of this?
I projected them both out, so no.
Okay.
The thing with Minnesota is that nothing opens up ever because they just bring in more people and they still play them 20 minutes.
That'll work. You ready to close this out?
Okay. If Travion Graham if Vonleh plays, I think he just takes the Naz Reid like 18 to 20 minutes behind Jang.
Yeah, I have him in right now, but either way.
If Graham plays, it gets even messier because now you just have another combo guy that can play 25 minutes.
I have them both in for right now, but I don't think it's super relevant. It's just going to go to like next guy up, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if Graham plays and starts, then Martin goes back to the bench, and I can't give him 30 minutes. Not that it really matters. But yeah, like if Graham's in, I would knock Okogie back down to like 18. I would take minutes from Jalen Noel.
Okay. Yeah, you can give Okogie 48 minutes, and that dude is going to project as a steaming piece of shit one way or the other.
Yeah, but apparently if I give him 24 minutes, he ends up in 20% of my DraftKings lineup. So
okay, so you can give Josh Okogie, who's performed at 0.56 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days, 24 minutes, and he's in everything for you. But Jarrett Culver, who you have at 30 minutes, nothing. You'd rather have Rondo.
I mean, he's like 20% or 25% more expensive than Okogie. So
yeah, let me know what kind of drugs they have in the Baltimore area, man.
I mean, I have Culver at 23 points. I have Okogie at like 19 and a half. But I'm also going to lower Okogie's minutes because 24 is not necessary.
If I gave Josh Okogie 24 minutes right now, I'm still not. I think my sheet would just gray him out.
Well, yeah, because it's giving all of the points to Jarrett Culver.
Touche. Los Angeles Lakers, Phoenix Suns, final game, the late night hammer. 118.75 implied total for the Lakers. 107.75 for the Suns. So 11-point favorites here. We'll start on the Lakers side. I assume you're going to lead off with Rondo and your crazy takes. Only two people that I need to talk about here. Anthony Davis, LeBron James. I prefer AD across both sites. 9,900 on DraftKings to me, just way too cheap for Anthony Davis. As of right now, on my original crunch, I got 31% AD, which was right with the field, slightly under on LeBron. I can get to some Dwight, I can get to some Kyle Kuzma, but nobody is really knocking my socks off here.
I love LeBron.
Sure.
Yeah.
LeBron more
I really
than
like
AD?
Yeah, a little bit. On DraftKings, on FanDuel, I think it's closer. I think because you get more stocks from Davis, but slight edge to LeBron for me, but a good matchup for both.
Yeah, I mean they are very clearly the two priorities here, and picking between them is not all that easy. Feel free to eschew all the awesome facts about 20 minutes a game, Rajon Rondo. I'd love to hear it.
There's nothing great. I mean, it's a good matchup. It's a fast-paced game. Phoenix doesn't play defense. He's played 18, and 20 minutes over the last 3 games, but I don't think that you should ignore that there is minutes upside for him. Like they've been closing over him with Alex Caruso. They don't have to do that. He can play 24 minutes. He's been doing it most of the season. But I have him in for 18, but I'm getting over a point per minute in this spot and 20-ish DraftKings points at 4K at low ownership is fine for me.
Dennis Smith Jr. out. Reggie Bullock available to play. Frank Ntilikina available to play.
I didn't give Bullock any minutes. I don't think that changes anything.
I did, but it doesn't change anything. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? Mentioned it today to Sal. They now have 2 3-point shooting North Carolina Tar Heels on the roster that they're going to bury at the end of the bench. So this should be good.
Yeah. I had Dotson at 14 minutes. I can just give those to Bullock.
That's pretty much how I felt. Once I got to like all of the main guys, it was like, any of you guys can do this shit.
Yeah.
Kuzma 15% owned, Dwight 13, Rondo 13, Danny Green 13. Does any of that sound like weird to you, or is that just perfectly normal for a 4-gamer?
I think it's pretty normal for the slate. I got to 5% Howard. I got to 6% Green, but like if their ownership came down, I think that I would get more.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's just that they're similar to Rondo. I think not Green could just play more minutes than normal, but like for Howard, he produces when he's out there. Rondo produces when he's out there. It's just a matter of how many minutes can they get.
Okay. Let's head over to the Phoenix side. Man, fucking YouTube spam is awful today. I can't stop blocking it. It's really getting annoying. Oh, God. Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker projected for a ton of ownership on FanDuel. Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre getting a little bit of love as well. I'm not like wildly interested in Phoenix. I had been recently, not so much today. I'll get to Booker for sure. I think Mikal Bridges on DraftKings is going a little bit underrepresented. 3,500, not projected for any real ownership. I got a ton of him on my original crunch. So what are your thoughts on these Phoenix guys? Close it out.
Yeah, I think that. So on DraftKings, I think Booker is fine. Rubio is fine. The pricing is favorable. It's a tough matchup against the Lakers, but the ownership's in check, and you know that they're both going to get plenty of opportunities for fantasy points here. Bridges, I agree with you, is interesting. I don't really know what to do with his minutes. He's been playing a lot, but there's nothing that says he has to. I ended up going 25 minutes to him, 23 minutes to Dario Saric. I do think that they most likely split 48 minutes. I got overweight on both of them. I got 20% Bridges, 8% Saric in my initial crunch, obviously not playing them together. The center position is pretty unappealing to me, but I think that the pricing at power forward with basically 48 minutes going to a 4K Saric and a $3,500 Bridges, there's a pretty good chance one of those guys ends up at least having the opportunity to be a good value based on minutes.
Yeah, I have like 40 to 50% Bridges right now, so that's something I'm going to look into. But at 3,500, it's just pretty easy.
Yeah, I think I was getting there when I gave him 26 minutes, and then I cut it back to 25. So I got a little bit more Saric, a little bit less Bridges.
I thought that I would get a lot of Kelly Oubre today. I've been getting a ton of him lately. It's just not going to be that day today. It's probably a tough spot.
Yeah, normally a better FanDuel play too, just because of the position. I don't know if that'll be the case today, but in general.
28% Booker, 21% Ricky Rubio.
What, are you asking me a question?
No, I can't stop dealing with these fucking YouTube spam comments, and it's really just distracting. We're getting destroyed with it today. So, congratulations, everybody. You're ruining a fucking DFS stream. Congrats on having no fucking life whatsoever. Must be a shame. Let's sum it up. Who do you like on DraftKings tonight?
LeBron, Vooch, Whiteside, Randall, Fournier. I think are the guys I'm getting to the most. Obviously, I'll get some Giannis. I'll get some Davis. Beal, if he's in. Right now, we have projected for low ownership. I'd be overweight on him.
So on FanDuel, for me, it's going to be Shabazz Napier, Lillard, Elfrid Payton. At shooting guard, Booker and McCollum looking like the only two real shooting guard options I care about. Small forward, I'm looking at Jarrett Culver, Carmelo Anthony, unfortunately. That's how I feel. LeBron James if I'm paying up. Power forward's going to be Anthony Davis, Robert Covington, a little bit of Julius Randle. And then at center, it's primarily Hassan Whiteside and Gorgeous Dong. See if we've got any questions in Premium Slack right now. Saric 3,700 on FanDuel. Does that move the needle?
It's the same exact play as DraftKings. He hasn't been playing minutes recently. There's nothing saying he's never going to do it again. The salary obviously reflects his recent playing time. So if I project him for 23 minutes, which is a reasonable projection, he could play more. He has been playing less. I get him as like a not very good play, but someone that at low ownership I can get in some lineups.
Okay.
The important thing there for me is I just don't want him and Bridges together.
And you're probably still a little bit salty about him from like 2 or 3 nights ago. And you have a lot of Sarge.
Yeah, the first game of the stretch of him not playing minutes. Yeah,
gotcha. Shout out to Michael Jackson, super chat. R.I.P. David Stern. I agree. And then Peter Brungus said R.I.P. Michael Jackson. Well played, Peter. Well played. Alrighty, guys. I think that's about it, unless we've got any other questions coming in from the premium Slack. Don't have a lot today. It's just kind of one of those days. There's not a lot up in the air. Ultimately, you expect Bradley Beal to play. Do we have anything else that we're waiting on?
I think it's just Beal, Graham, Vonleh.
Crazy.
Matthews. That actually matters.
Yes, it does. That's all I've got. Unless you have anything else.
Nope.
Ooh, okay, here we go. Chris Myers. Are you worried about Vooch getting shut down by Mahinmi? Top 10 center in defense. We'll just skip that part for sure. Do you like him or Whiteside more for DraftKings?
I have them projected within 1/10 of a fantasy point of each other.
Yeah. I prefer Whiteside to Vooch. All right. I think we could wrap it up, guys. Thank you for joining us on this lovely first deeper dive of the year. Coming up next, live before lock. Be back running through this slate one more time, taking us up to the 6 p.m. lock for the Washington Wizards Orlando Magic game. Adam, anything else?
Nope.
There it is, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Stick around. Same link. We're not going anywhere. We will be back shortly. Good luck tonight, guys. quickly change all of the relevant information on the screen before anything gets started. What's up, everybody? Live before lock. Don't adjust that dial. I've changed it. Now it says live before lock. Myself, and for the first time in a little bit, Fast Eddie Fear. How's Mexico,
it's been too
my
long.
friend?
Summits is muy excelente. Is ¿Dónde está el demostración del bulo?
¿Dónde está los pantalones? The only thing that I remember from whatever commercial that was.
Where? ¿Dónde está el zapateria? We were going to do a Christmas together.
We were going to do
Christmas. I had my mistletoe belt buckle all ready for you, and apparently you caught the croup or something. You became incredibly ill.
Yes, it was not a fun stretch of time. My parents got here right at the first day of the flu, and we're here for all of it. It was a miserable Christmas experience for everybody. I felt very
terrible.
bad. Very bad. Couldn't kick the fever, but it's long gone now. The sore throat is just about gone, and all we need to do is talk a little bit of NBA.
Can we have a different slate?
I would not be mad about having a different slate because this one is not exactly good. But we do have a ton of content for you to check out regarding this slate. You can do that in one of two ways if you are not a member. You can sign up using the promo code 2020, which will get you 20 days of Platinum Awesemo Plus access for $20. That promo will be good for the next 10 days. Or if you really just want to dive into the deep end, use the promo code New Year. One big word, no space in between. You can get 20% off your first yearly package of Awesemo Plus.
Wow.
That $200 savings. Get access to everything that we have. So I highly recommend you check it out. There are links in YouTube chat right now if you want to do that. And I have to give the shout out to Fantasy Draft for being the presenting sponsor. If you're looking to play rake-free DFS, the best place that you can do that, and the only place that you can do that, is Fantasy Draft. Anytime that you can save some money and keep it in your pocket, you want to do that, it's going to be better for you in the long run. Nobody wants to pay interest. They want to receive it. This is going to be as close as you're possibly going to get to that. You're going to pay as little out as possible. Go to fantasydraft.com. Use the promo code AWESEMO for a 7-day free trial of rake-free DFS. Highly recommend you do it. Eddie, you had to play one guy in like a lot of lineups on this slate. Could you even name one person?
I've started to interpret that question as who do I think I would be most over the field, like percentage-wise, as? And running a quick hypothetical, I think the person I would end up most over the field on this slate, presuming he plays, would be Bradley Beal.
Okay.
I think I'd have a really, really significant amount of Brad Beal. I am guessing, obviously, this is going to depend on if we get news of in or starting at exactly what time. We're 55 minutes from slate. And again, it's not even possible to play him on FanDuel, right? FanDuel's the one who did it, right?
Right.
But for DraftKings, on a 4-game slate, if we get news that he is in and starting when I would expect to get it, which is usually about 20 minutes before a lock, when they're waiting on warm-ups, which is the official word right now, I think you're going to get Brad Beal somewhere around 8% owned. And that oven by itself, it should be plenty appealing. There was plenty of footage of the practice yesterday. He looked just fine to me. Didn't go full burst, but zero evidence of any sort of limp. Shot normally looked good, and I watched as much of it as I could get. I am concerned for the minutes. I am concerned for the injury. I don't think we can look at this as I think some concern about his condition is appropriate, but it's a 4-game slate without a ton of an edge, and we'll go through all the ownership, I'm sure, and talk about some of the other guys. But this is actually a very good spot for him. He picks up a lot of Fournier defense, which he does extremely well with. And this is the third time this year these two teams have gotten together. And I was a big fan of Beal on each of the first 2 days. And he was very low owned each of the first 2 days because people are like, oh, Orlando, I don't know if I want to go there. And he had somewhere between like 55 and 60 fantasy points each of the first 2 days. I couldn't project him for that much fairly, but I would think the usage would even be augmented a little bit, and it's just getting a guy who I wouldn't have projected that much lower than like LeBron and Anthony Davis at, $1,000, $1,200 cheaper and a third of the ownership. So yeah, I would hope that close to 6 they announce Brad Beal is in, and he'll be 8-10% owned or something, and I'd have 30 or something. That'd probably be where I'd plant my flag.
Okay, I can handle that. See here. We had a super chat from Courtney Crump. Those glasses ain't fooling us, Eddie. Josh, what's the percentage chance of Napier hitting 5x on FanDuel? That's a good question. Let me take a look.
I wasn't trying to fool anyone.
Yeah, I don't know. Chances
5x on FanDuel. What's he cost on FanDuel? And I'll guess what your thing will spit it out as.
He is 5,800.
58. Whoa. Good. So they goosed that a little bit. For Shabazz Napier.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that you say the odds of him getting 5x that, putting up a 29er. I'm going to say that you have the odds of that at a hot 31%.
You are very low, sir. Very low.
Really?
51%. I have him projected at...
You have him projected for a bit more than that.
I
wow.
do. 29.4 fantasy points.
I have him at like 25.5. That's interesting.
Let me make
That's
sure
obviously
that I'm
a mess.
crazy.
We could start talking about that now. That's obviously,
I'll say this
a
much.
Mess.
I have the DraftKings projections in front of me. Alex has him 5 points higher than I do.
Wow.
So yes, that game is very much a mess. I think that it would be in our best interest to touch on that one right now.
Okay.
Maybe we can pump the brakes a little bit until we get a little bit of Bradley Beal news, because that will be, when that comes in, we're going to want to go to it one way or the other.
4,800 they're saying to us. Several people in chat.
I had the DraftKings price in front of me. Either way, that's going to make this go higher.
Yes, I would think.
Yeah, so it's bigger than whatever I just said. I had
24. You would now have got probably a 70% chance or high 60s.
Sorry about that, guys. So 24, yeah, the 67% chance.
Yeah,
got it, guys. I had the DraftKings salary in there.
I'm a little less than that because I do think they get absolutely crushed, and I'm not sure he gets the blowout run. I can see that going to McLaughlin Martin. I can see a couple lineups in which he's not in, so I ended up with a lower. Like I have Culver for like 6 more minutes than him. So,
so talk to me about Minnesota. How do you want to handle this, or does anything stand out to you from the Milwaukee side?
So we had this game already this year. We had this game actually without Towns. Towns served his 1-game suspension for mud wrestling Joel Embiid in the Bucks game, if memory serves.
Yes.
So we had this game already, and that they got whooped by 30 or some such, but they had Wiggins and they had Teague, so this is great because this is one of those days where all our guys who say I don't predict blowouts kind of start projecting blowouts. So like I don't project blowouts, but I have these guys at 28 minutes for the starters, whatever, because it is hard to imagine this team that is blowing out, the Clippers on time to time and stuff, really struggling with this backup squad for this team. So, also, by the way, extra cookie there, the Timberwolves, the only team on today's slate on a back-to-back. They host Golden State tomorrow. So if you're looking for another reason that this team is a little bit screwed. So I don't know. Let me take a look at ownership if I have any super hot takes on the Bucks. We assume, I like having some tournament exposure to Bledsoe. I want to see what he's owned at because he's cheap enough that I think of him and Middleton and Giannis, it's barely easiest enough for him to actually hit some sort of ceiling relative to his price. Like if all these guys demolish the opposition and play 25 or 26 minutes, which is basically what happened last time, Bledsoe is going to have the easiest way of putting up. Bledsoe can get to 35 or 40, which is a really good score for his price. If you get 26 minutes out of Giannis, you are hoping he gets you 56, 57, and doesn't make you look bad. So probably that's my favorite place to go in GPPs. But as there's massive amounts of value, I still have Giannis as the high scoring guy on the slate for me.
Sure.
And it should be worth pointing out in that first game he played, he got over 60. Everything runs real slow down here south of the border, so I haven't had time to look up a lot of the stuff, but I recall the game well. And he had whatever 35 and 17 or so. He had 60 some odd fantasy points in 26 or 27 minutes. So, even in limited time, dude can absolutely get there. Not that we need one object example to see it, but it has already happened where this team blew out that team and he played, it was 26 or 27 minutes, I'm almost certain, and put up 60 some odd fantasy points. So I'm still just fine with getting to Giannis.
Okay.
Obviously, being a fan of Beal, and making him some sort of priority in construction, I would end up moving from, in a vacuum right now, I'd have 35% Giannis. Beal out would kick that up a little bit. Beal in would kick it down a little bit. I think that's where a lot of that money would pivot for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm finding this Bucks team to be pretty tricky today.
Yeah,
they blow out everybody when they're full strength to trot themselves out here against a Minnesota team that is far from it.
Yeah. Well, the value is the trickiest thing for me today.
Yeah.
There is such a massive amount of 4K value on this slate. In this game, there are 9 reasonable value plays between, say, $3,600 and $4,800 on just these two teams before you start getting into the Orlando guys and the cheap cards there and the potential, blowout guys on either, the Knicks or the Trouble. I mean, there is so much upside value on the slate that it makes everything really, really weird. But I think both these teams end up playing 12 dudes, and it really threatens to be a bit of a mess. If someone has, I remember watching that game because Gorgie Jang got the spot start and performed very adequately in again the town suspension game from the wrestling match. And I remember watching the game and just everyone being out there. I'll put the over-under on players who played in that game on both teams combined at 24.
That sounds about right to me. I remember
it might be 25.
It was a sea of dudes.
Yeah, just all kinds of guys who had been out of the rotation were coming back. Where Sterling Brown had been out of the rotation, I think cameoed for 5 minutes in that game, and you had 10 minutes of Corver and 16 at Connaughton and 20 at DiVincenzo back before he was getting all his time, and so it's so I probably in GPPs would go. I have no issue with Bledsoe, Giannis, Middleton. Okay. They can all get there, and if there's a blowout again, they should be on the ass-kicking side, and that's the side you want. So,
could you imagine if they weren't? Could you imagine if they were on the getting their ass kicked side of this?
We've seen a couple of things like that this year. I mean, we just saw
this week
the Wizards put the whoop on the Heat,
and then the Hawks beat Orlando.
Yeah, we had that, and then not that 2 weeks before that, we had the same Wizards team, not quite as injured as this one, beat the 76ers.
Right. So that shit happens.
But I think that Wizards team beating that Hawks team was the most surprising for me. Or the Heat team.
Yeah,
I just didn't see that coming. I was just like, I cannot believe against a good defensive squad that they're gonna Mahinmi / Justin / McCray their way to a 20-point victory or whatever that game was. That one just
I couldn't believe
I looked at. I was like, how much of this tequila have I had? Like, it was really one of those. I was just like, I did not see that coming. So, but keeping that in mind, this Trailblazers team is very nearly as bad, if not as bad as this Wizards team.
Yeah.
And this Bucks team is a damn sight better than that Heat team. Like, things are going to have to go really, really squirrely for this game to stay close. But again, we've seen it. So, George Hill, $3,800 on FanDuel, deserves a special shout. He's going to get his 22, 23 minutes. This is a team that is going to give up a lot of three-pointers from the areas in which George Hill likes to drop them. And there is a reason he's been, a guy who's been leading the league in three-point percentage at some point, like 3 of the last 5 years. Guy can shoot. So, and he's been doing it. To a certain extent, I am dubious of George Hill's continued production because guy's been shooting career best rates for quite a while now. But even in his 20 minutes, it's a short slate, and he can get 26 fantasy points for his 3,800, and that could absolutely be enough to do you there. But wouldn't have a ton, just because there are much better chances that you randomly grab a 40 burger out of even Keelan Martin or Jarrett Culver or one of those other guys who can pick up 37 minutes. Is not an impossibility whatsoever for some of these players.
This is going to be just a wacky slate when we look back at it tomorrow morning. I can see it coming already. We're going to shout out a lot of names that we probably don't even touch on.
Yeah, the ones that I missed have been pretty wacky. Like, I was looking at over the last couple of days. There's been some wild crap going on with that Heat game being one of them, but just all sorts of really odd circumstances.
What do you like? A blast.
No, I would think people were. I mean, it wasn't like he was dreadful, but that was also maybe the DK knew it was coming, because that was the day they did the redonkulous pricing on Adebayo and Butler.
And Bam started smashing out of the gate, and it was like, okay, here it comes, and then got put on ice.
Yeah. So I like Napier just fine. Yeah. I probably, as an abnormality, would have him all the way down as fourth among guys on this team. Okay. But I don't dislike him. Some of these guys are gonna have to score, and there's a very real chance that he gets out there and plays 35 minutes. But I would generally prefer Culver, Covington, and Jang to him.
Okay.
As far as the guys, I'm a little more interested in getting to. And again, they're all priced a little more brilliantly to much better. All these players on FanDuel.
Talk to me a little bit about Culver, because I have a staggering amount right now, and I need some reassurance.
He's my favorite. If you tell me if you can tell me on FanDuel, DraftKings is a little more interesting because he's 48, but everybody's priced up there.
I did mean this in terms of DraftKings, actually, by the way. I'm not playing on FanDuel today.
Oh, well, if you like because on FanDuel you have only the 3-game slate.
Right.
And
I don't want to mess with playing at 7:30. I'm good.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's worth pointing out to those listening to the show, I'd have a lot of trouble not having at least 2 Timberwolves in almost every lineup on FanDuel. They're too cheap. Covington at 51, would have a lot of trouble getting away from. Culver at 41, Napier at 48, even Keelan Martin is 100 off the floor. Past that, I guess it's a little tricky, but I'd have an awful lot of those guys.
They're hard to get away from on FanDuel, man.
Yeah, DraftKings, I have Culver's minutes as the most secure. I have Culver as the most minutes on the team. I have him at 34.
Okay.
So that's got a lot to do. Going back and looking at all their various blowout configurations, which seems pretty relevant here in the positions played. Culver just gets time at the 1, the 2, and the 3. I'm pretty sure he's going to be out there in the event of a blowout. It'll be him and McLaughlin and Martin, probably like Reed and Bates Diop or a Kogian, but I'm pretty sure Culver will be out there in that situation. And so for that reason, I just like him most for minutes. And while he's not brilliant fantasy producer, he's going to give you, whatever 0.8, 0.85 is. He's been pretty steady at that for most of his career. That just ends up with him mathing out into, reasonable numbers in the high 20s. And at his prices, he's the one I prefer most of these guys, by lieu of just being cheaper than Napier and slightly more secure minutes than most of these guys. So I probably have Culver just a hair over Covington. And then I have Jang and Napier as guys I still really like, but I'm slightly less inclined towards.
I just finished my DraftKings crunch right now, so I'm going to export that and see how much the nonsense is. I expect Culver to be my most owned guy.
Okay. I did not think, I have not looked at our ownership in a couple hours, so I'm going to look.
We just got an update like 2 minutes ago.
Nice. Let me hit a button. I thought that Martin would be the highest owned, and then I thought it'd be Martin
is
and Covington.
Third, but we've got all 5 of these guys are all just kind of smushed together. So nobody really pulling away from the pack. Gorgeous Dong at 29, Culver 26, Martin 23, Covington and Napier both at 20. That's for DraftKings.
I'm really excited about both I would think they'd all be a little higher. So I'm very happy with all those numbers, I guess is where I would come down. Like, I would want more of all those guys, which feels a little weird. Like, If I'm coming in under on one of those guys, I don't even know. Like, I would want a little more of almost all of them. I'm curious if you have a little more of almost all of them, because they just project a little better for me than them.
64% Culver, 40%
Okay.
Noah Vonleh is broken somehow. Let me go
okay.
figure out whatever just happened there.
You may want to fix that.
Yeah, for sure. That I must have typed something in incorrectly.
I'm a Noah Vonleh fan. What the hell is his status?
Fully up in the air. We have no idea what his official status is as of right now.
Okay, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. 20% Keelan Martin, 20% Gorgeous Dong, but none of it matters right now because of that ridiculous Noah Vonleh exposure that is not going to hold right now.
Yeah.
Even though he is 3,100, I don't need 40% backup center in my life.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit. Let's see. I can get a look at the 530 when that hits.
Much better. Now let's try to run this again because that was just preposterous. Can't be having that. It's gonna make me go crazy. Okay, now we're back in business. Copy. Let's recrunch.
Okay.
That was pretty broken, I believe. He's projected for 9% ownership right now, so he's making my player pool because he's above my cutoff for ownership.
Okay.
Might have to bump that cutoff just to get him out of there.
Yeah, I have just manually, crushes, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that I also tried. So we'll figure out where we end up from there. I think we need to touch a little bit on the Portland Trailblazers.
Sure.
Dame Lillard, Hassan Whiteside, CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony, all in the mid-20s in ownership on DraftKings. Who stands out most to you from Portland?
Those guys are all in a pretty tight band for me.
Yeah.
And it ends up being a little bit site dependent. Like, I prefer Vooch to Whiteside if Beal is in. And if you're on a site that allows you to play both players.
Okay.
I guess I should also put in that caveat. If Beal is out, I have them almost dead tied and would go with ownership, whatever that is.
Okay.
I obviously like Beal more than I expect other people to. So that would limit, by extension, Lillard and McCollum and Booker and a couple other things there. But I have all those guys in a tight band. I had an interesting colloquy, if you will, earlier today with someone who asked me, you don't believe in any of this revenge nonsense with Melo at Madison Square Garden, do you? And the answer is, of course I don't. But at the same time, I'm sure it's real. I can't do anything with it.
Right.
Like, in its very simplest terms, I would say I almost always believe that narratives, for most situations, increase the ceiling and lower the floor. Yeah. Someone tells me, like, you had a kid born yesterday. I would think, not massively usually, but I think it would slightly increase the ceiling and lower the floor because it just is going to add some variance into what is otherwise a series of variables. It's just one more variable. So you're going to generally increase variance when you add variables to any sort of binomial, whatever the hell. So as dumb as this sounds, but I think Melo in the Garden, as opposed to against a completely otherwise identical team for which he had not played for X years and had a narrative with, I think is worth probably something like a half point. Like, I think it is possible that it affects him negatively, but more likely that it affects him positively in that he takes an extra shot. I don't think this is something anyone should compute for, but I think I'll speak for myself. I think I frequently just sort of duck hard questions where it's just like, I don't want to project for blowouts because I don't know how to do it well. But it's still a thing. Like, a player in a game that has a line of 2 points is better than the same player in an otherwise identical game that has a line of 12 points. Because just his minutes projection should be 30 seconds, 40 seconds higher, whatever that would math out to. I think there are ways that today goes worse for Melo, but there's more ways that it goes better for him, and the crowd gets into it, and the coach leaves him out there an extra minute or two. Or the team feeds him the ball a little extra because, if you've ever played on a team, that's something that happens. Or the other guys are like, let's get him going today. So it's weird because you want to just, toe the party line and be like, I'm not projecting that bullshit revenge birthday bobblehead crap. I instead like to profess my own lack of knowledge and just say, I'm pretty sure it's a thing. I have absolutely no idea how to refer to it in a quantitative analytical way. But yeah, if you told me all else was equal, I think Melo's worth an extra half point or a point today, which doesn't really factor into your question, but just it was an interesting conversation we had where he's like, you don't believe in any of that. I'm like, no, of course not, except I'm pretty sure it's real. I just can't prove it.
Zach, we're on the same page here. I can't quantify it, so I have to treat it like it doesn't exist for right now.
That's sort of as a tiebreaker for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if Melo was going to randomly have a 25-shot game this year and put up 35 real points, isn't this the most likely spot?
You would think.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're telling, he got signed, Melo's going to score, 1 40-point game this year, where will it be? I'd be like, I guess I'll take the Garden.
Right.
But like, it sounds dumb, but, and again, these two teams have played already since Melo. They played in Portland.
Yeah.
And he had a perfectly pedestrian game. I don't remember it offhand, meaning it was your standard Melo game, I'm sure, of 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal or a block or something. Like, it's I have no idea offhand, but it's not sticking out in my memory, so I don't think he did anything particularly brilliant. But again, going back to the Garden and coming down the tunnel, and
Bradley Beal will play.
Yeah, get him in there. What do we got? 30 minutes before a lock? I think they'll get him at 10% owned. And there's just, looking at ownership, there's nothing else that jumps out to me as like, this is wild. Like, I think you need to depart from ownership to be successful a long time. And there's nothing else I'm looking at here that's like, oh, that's terrible. So, yeah, I guess I'll depart from ownership by having more Bradley Beal.
There we go. And then I do want to circle back. We did just get a super chat. I want to make sure that I don't miss it.
Okay.
But I have lost it somehow. So let me try and refresh this and see if I can get it back. It was a 2v2, and I want to make sure I get that question out there for the person.
Yeah, Bradley Beal, 2 games against Orlando this year, 57 and 58 DraftKings points. Someone just messaged me. So that's and I don't recall either of them being like he hit all his shots games. He just took a lot of shots in those games. He took 30 shots in each game or something off the top of my head, which isn't surprising for me. I used it actually to bring up a football concept and talking about basketball, where it was a path of least resistance thing, where that team had, Vooch for, I think, just one of those 2 games off the top of my head. Anyhow, some combination of Vooch and Aaron Gordon and John Isaac, who are just excellent, brilliant defenders.
Yeah.
And then has some combination of DJ Augustine, Markelle Fultz, and Evan Fournier, who are fine, but significantly worse. And there were a number of teams and a number of shots I'd get where you would get people who were very low owned against Orlando, because understandably Orlando plays fairly slow and is an excellent defense, not quite as good as last year, but still very good. And people would avoid it. And there were times when you would have a ball dominant guard who can keep the ball in his hands and just run it all game, where it made sense for Bradley Beal to take 30 odd shots. And if whoever, John, who just texted me the box score from that game, tell me how many shots Bradley Beal took in those 2 games. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around 30 in each of those games. And it makes sense. He's the best offensive player on the team then, certainly now.
Yeah.
And rather than run into difficult defenders down low, let's give our best player the ball with a better matchup the whole game. Like, it just to some, it's like compared it to, like a run funnel defense in football, where it's like, oh, they've got 3 of the top 10 cornerbacks in the league all in one team. Let's just run the ball all day. It's sort of the same thing. Why run in there and deal with Vooch and Aaron Gordon, who's an underrated defender, and John Isaac? I'll take my chance with Markelle Fultz and DJ Augustine all day.
Finally found that super chat, so thank you very much to Fareed Kassam. Culver Rubio or Augustine Booker on DraftKings?
I'm going to take Culver and Rubio.
Same.
I like both of those by just a bit more. I have no issues with Augustine or Booker. I slightly prefer Culver to Augustine. I slightly prefer Rubio at price to Booker. So that both of those break slightly to the former for me.
I have
And Josh
0
Green.
Giannis right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stand. It's
Wes
a stand.
Matthews out tonight.
Okay, I mean that's useful for a couple of things. I would be more comfortable having some nominal amount of exposure to Dante DiVincenzo, who it's going to kick up a few minutes there for him for what we can expect out of him. I think it makes it easier to get to Pat Connaughton, who's a pretty useful value play. I'd probably move him up to like double B's in rankings if I could get. I already have to use like remote desktop to get rankings to stick. So trying to do it from Mexico, because I can't even look at a DraftKings player pool from here, means that I have to like load multiple. It didn't work.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it wasn't. So
when do you come back?
But I figure I will be back hopefully for our Saturday show. I land very early in the morning Saturday in Detroit. Might come in Friday night. I might move my plane flight back, but I should be back full speed, all normal Saturday.
Okay, just double checking.
Yeah, but DiVincenzo, interesting. Little better for George Hill. You'll see some of him next to Bledsoe. We've seen that once in a while. A little bit better for Connaughton. Doesn't move the needle a whole lot.
Okay.
For me.
Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you really want to make sure we talk about?
Great question. My old school notes are just a Word document with lots of stuff there.
I want to make sure we don't miss anything that you have your eye on.
Yeah, people have yelled at me when I point things out at 2 minutes past lock. I'm like, yeah, by the way, that guy's going to be bad. They're like, God damn it. I'm sorry. I messed that up again. All right, I think we did enough on Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I want to look at ownership again and see if anything jumps out.
Let's do a little. We have sort of touched on Orlando here.
Yeah,
so we've got some ownership.
We should talk about Terrence Ross.
That's where I was going for this.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
He's at 25% ownership. We've got Vooch at 30. They are the two highest owned guys from Orlando. We're also seeing a little bit of love coming into Wes Iwundu, and then the usual suspects: Augustine, Fultz, and Isaac. But yeah, the Terrence Ross price 4,200 feels a tad low.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. And again, the thing is, with Aaron Gordon not playing, it actually ends up being worth a couple minutes for him. And then no Michael Carter-Williams playing really starts to kick his minutes back up. He had started to lose the minutes battle between the guards on that team, where they were trying to find time for Augustine, who went on a streak of playing really well. And Fultz obviously is holding onto the starting job, and Evan Fournier, and just Terrence Ross is the guy who was losing out on the minutes there, where he was trending down towards very little time. But MCW surrendering his handful of minutes and Gordon being out makes me think he plays. I think I had 27 minutes when I was sketching out a rotation earlier today, but for $4,200 in a matchup that's extremely good for him. So he should be points per dollar, one of the more popular guys. I like him. I think I had him a point higher than Keelan Martin raw points, who's like $200 less on DK, and they were the guys who sort of as value guys jumped out a little bit. And you can also talk about I think Dante DiVincenzo is also $4,000 on DK. His FanDuel price is still a bit inflated from Sans Bledsoe time, but he gets a little interesting in this point too. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Terrence Ross. That especially because there was also just an enormous upside when you're talking about these guys with Keelan Martin and DiVincenzo. Terrence Ross is the most likely of these guys to give you 45. It's not likely, but he's the most likely guy to absolutely blow up your slate like that.
Yeah. Another super chat from Courtney Crump. Frank in. Peyton minutes still secure. Yes, they are.
Yeah, I DSJ out by acclamation, I'm guessing. Not
Correct.
That super matters, but yeah, I would still think Elf. We have no reason to suspect Elf wouldn't continue to see that much time. Now, this is a Knicks team that hasn't faced as many blowouts since the coaching change. But I do think that's, some sort of relevant consideration. And when they played in Portland, they did get pretty thoroughly thumped. I still like Julius Randle a lot. He's pretty significantly my favorite Knick.
Okay.
After that, I guess I have to go with Elf. But the matchup and also they've just called more plays for him since the coaching change, where out of timeouts and double screens for him. There's just been more plays that I've seen where they're trying to get him the ball. So part of it is, I think, motivation and the locker room not being quite as toxic and what have you. But also they're making a real effort to let him, beast up a little bit more. So I'm a pretty big fan of Julius Randle. After that, I guess I have to go with Elf. I don't know if they're going to actually give Reggie Bullock some sort of real time here. I don't think he's played this year.
I gave him a little bit of time. I don't expect it to be anything relevant today.
Yeah, it's just interesting. If you were going to super punt Damian Dotson, I wouldn't have thought was crazy at the beginning of the day because he had been seeing real time, and then Ellington's around 2, and RJ Barrett you could use to drop 2 minutes off the projection. And on a 4-game slate, you could have talked me into Kevin Knox, and it's just a little more meh. And I don't think you need any of it, but I do think he plays for what it's worth. I think you see Reggie Bullock tonight. Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Man, this slate is just really not the best.
It feels weird, and what's weird is that I don't like it. Usually I like all sorts of shit thrown against the wall. I think it's great. I think it's money for the people who are paying attention. And I don't have any strong takes. I'm excited to see, and we can do a daddy like in 20 minutes. I'm excited to see 10% own Brad Beal and you and me, you and other people hopefully getting on top of that. I do think that's a real edge to me.
I have 27 right now.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's you're not overly exposing yourself, and there is some chance he plays less. There's some chance they get their ass kicked. There's some chance he's not at 100%. But if all those things aren't the case, and he's where I'm guessing at whatever 10-12%, that is my favorite play on the slate at this moment.
You and I mean, relative to the field, I would completely agree. I'm hoping that ownership number for him does not climb.
Yeah, and I think, the number is still expensive enough that, people are on Braun, Giannis, Brow, cheap Booker, all these other plays, McCollum, Lillard, that hopefully that number stays down. And again, it's been historically a really good spot for him. So hopefully that game plays out that way. But if I was building one lineup, it would be Beal, Vooch, Ross from that first game. That's probably it. Once you put Beal in, and again, he's in, the rest of Washington has now been priced up and gets a little dicey. I can see getting to a couple other guys. Probably Isaiah Thomas would be the next guy I'd go to for similar reasons, but a little dicier when you get Beal in there. I don't think you need it. He would fall under the value plays on Orlando and Minnesota and so on and so on.
Wait, we just got the question. Can you discuss Washington other than Beal?
Sure. Let me. I downloaded prices, so let me pull that and take a real specific look at that. If you just asked that question, please tell me what site you're looking at more, so I can sort of contextualize my answer for that.
Yeah, no site was listed.
Gotcha. In case they follow up.
Yeah, I hope they do.
Yeah, and again, a 4-game slate. I think it's a good idea to not reflexively just dismiss a team like that. But it's also worth pointing out that I would want really. I mean, this is a legit bad ownership. They're not so short on bodies that you can get into some sort of minutes crunch here, and everybody is priced up. So I mean, Washington is. My next favorite guy would probably end up being.
Beal is up to 19% ownership now. We just got an update 2 minutes ago.
Crap. Well, poop.
Agreed.
I mean, I'd still want more, and your 27 would still feel fine for me, but yeah.
Time to recrunch.
Yeah. FanDuel, I probably end up on. Yeah, so the other guys who I would have significant interest in on their prices would be Isaiah Thomas, especially FanDuel 4,600. does not need to do that much to get on top of that. And again, I'd like coming in at the guard positions. Again, everyone priced better on FanDuel. DraftKings, it's really hard other than Beal. Beal at 8,700 is very well priced. I like that price. Jonathan Williams, 3,700. That's again, he's starting. We found out again, so not sure exactly how many minutes that's going to portend, but that makes a lot of sense for me. That's a cheap number, and he can get there. Past that on DraftKings, it's Isaiah Thomas at 51, but again, the price is on FanDuel. Isaiah Thomas is 46, Troy Brown is 48, Williams is also 37, and Jan Mahinmi is 49 as opposed to 53. I have no issue with Jan Mahinmi. I would have some in either player pool. They're going to try to give him 30 minutes. I'd project him for a little less than that in fantasy points. There are foul trouble issues. This game isn't particularly well suited for defending a player like Vooch. So I have some concerns there that would lead me to some Andreas Paschniks. He's, I think, 35 on DK.
He is indeed.
So I would have some of that for that reason. Again, all you really need to happen is have Jan Mahinmi pick up a couple fouls, and this is outside his comfort zone. So, but I'd still have interest in Jan Mahinmi, who has a handful of 50-plus fantasy point games in his career. I remember some really dumb 11 steal.
He went crazy a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I didn't see the box, but I know that he was in that game.
What's
where
in the box?
Him and McRae and Justin went a little cray in that one game.
We got another question. Can you compare? These things are not easy to compare, but Lillard versus Whiteside on a FanDuel perspective, having a hard time deciding between. Having a hard time answering that question as well.
The reason I'm having a hard time answering that question is I cannot currently load the site without. Let me see if I can backdoor in a VPN and look at this. I will try, because it honestly has to do more than anything else with how much I like other centers and point guards on FanDuel.
Sure.
So it's a little bit weird of a question. At their prices, I like them both just fine. Like I don't have a strong take. They're going to be whatever 20-25% owned, I expect, on FanDuel, and those seem to be. What's our FanDuel ownership projected for those two players?
That's a good question. Let me hop over to it.
Okay. And I will. Yes. Okay. I've managed to get in a draft room. So
Lillard at 30, Whiteside at 21.
Yeah, which again, 2 point guards, 1 center. I guess I should have expected something like that. Nothing immediately jumps out to me hearing about that. Rubio at 73, I like. Elf at 59, I like. Bledsoe at 59, at 56, I like. Napier at 48, I like. I'm not really excited about getting to Rondo today. Right, so there's a number of other. So I'm just going to answer your question as in I'm building one lineup and I have to play one of those two guys. Which guy is it? And because I have no Vooch, I would probably end up playing Whiteside.
Okay.
If I have to play one of those two guys in my first lineup and some combination of the other point guards, which I'm just fine with. I imagine I would play probably not Giannis, so I'd end up with like Bledsoe and Rubio. If I planned on having Giannis, I'd go, Rubio and value guys. So Rubio and Napier, Rubio and Hill again, who's only 3,800, makes sense, or something along those lines. So, but no strong preference. But I imagine if you're telling me I have to play one in one lineup, that I play Whiteside and not Lillard.
Okay. And then I think it's probably time that we touch on the two studs from Los Angeles. How do you want to hash out Anthony Davis and LeBron James? As of right now, my lean is Anthony Davis. LeBron has a slight lead in ownership.
Yeah, I have Anthony Davis projected for about a point more. So, and usually I have LeBron a little higher. So there's a bit of an exception for me. I'd say 3 days out of 4, I end up preferring LeBron. Here, I actually prefer Anthony Davis by a scotch. But if he's also projected to be lower owned, then that would solidify that for me. So yeah, if I'm working one of those guys in and everything else works out being position and price agnostic, then I'd be a little more inclined to get Brown.
Okay. Let's see if we're getting any more questions in. I am running what I hope is my final crunch.
Nice.
That would be the goal, at least.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Just click.
try to see what kind of news I can get down here.
Anything else on the Lakers besides LeBron and AD? I'm gonna get to a trickle of some of these guys, but man, they are not all that appealing.
It's tough. The Christmas show went really well, and the other show I did from Mexico went fairly well as well, because I ended up being really high on Lonzo, which worked out, and really low on Kuzma. All throughout the day, I kept getting Kuzma questions, and I'm like, he does not justify that price tag. He does not do enough but score and he just doesn't pick up enough. Like, I would have precious little to zero. Again, it would be site dependent, but he was like 48 and 58, and I said I would have zero on whichever he was 58 and just a scotch at the 48.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to like Lakers when those other two guys are in. Now, it's a 4-game slate, so yes, if I was doing rankings today, I would have rankings like D and C, with a D in cash and C in tournaments. So basically don't play them in cash, and I would have 1 to 5 lineups of them and 150 in GPPs of probably favorite of the value would go in order. Geez, I don't know. Probably all 5 of those guys, where it would be something like Dwight, followed by Avery Bradley, followed by JaVale, followed by KCP, followed by like Danny Green, something to that order. But yeah, I'm not excited. And on a slate where, again, there are a lot of other guys who cost that much and carry really giant upsides, it's difficult for me to advocate for anyone.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you feel differently? I mean,
I don't advocate for really anything else from LA other than Anthony Davis and LeBron James, so I don't really have much else to add there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least we agree.
Yeah. There are basically 2 guys on this team that are worth their salt in DFS, unless there are injuries for this team. Like, obviously, JaVale is a fantastic point per minute or per minute performer, been at 1.25 this season. But
yeah, and you can make an argument to me that if you are like, you can build a lineup based on a blowout in that game, where you can try to not play any of the studs in that game and play. Because again, that's like a 10-point line or what have you as well. Even though it's not as crazy as the Bucks one, it's worth considering. Maybe that game doesn't stay close, and so then you can play, I don't know, Alex Caruso and McCall Bridges, who will both definitely be out there in a blowout. You can play McCall Bridges anyway, by the way.
yes.
Someone asked me about Saric.
What's happening to that guy?
They're running stretch 4s, and I mean, he is a stretch 4 really, but they're just running a lot of really, really small ball time, where they're spending a lot of time at the 4 for Kelly Oubre and Cam Johnson and McCall Bridges, and like, they have just lots of guys getting out there at 4. I mean, so he's just getting, hurt hard for minutes. I will say that if he's going to get time as the largest of the guys picking up that 4 spot, this would be it. But getting, Ayton back and Baines going on, them potentially still trying to find a role in there for Kaminsky. I mean, he is not going to be playing a lot of basketball in the near future. So,
no. Any Ayton for you now that he's back?
He's like 60 something.
67 on DraftKings, 7K on FanDuel.
That's really tough. But yeah, the answer is I'd have some, I think, just on DraftKings.
Okay.
I guess on FanDuel as well with the shorter slate. So yeah, I would have small amounts. I only have them at, I think, 26, 27 minutes. That's not etched in stone. There's a chance he gets 32 minutes and 50 fantasy points, and it is a really short slate. But
rough spot
I would have a non-zero amount.
Rough
yeah,
spot.
that's I mean, that whole team against LA. I want to go take a look at the prices real quick and see if this is the case again. But especially on, DraftKings, they had not done nearly as good of a job as they should for pricing people down. And what's a pretty nightmarish matchup with the Lakers. FanDuel had done a slightly better job. And today, not really either of them quite did enough. Like, they're fine. I like Ricky Rubio, but that's a really tough matchup. I mean, there are really zero bad defenders on this team. So you just end up with, Kelly Oubre is 6'5" and 6'9". That's about what Kelly Oubre should cost. That's not discounted. Booker is a little too cheap. Rubio's, $7K or $7.3. That's what he should cost. Ayton is a little too cheap if he was playing 35 minutes, but that's gone. So yeah, they're just not quite priced down enough for what's a pretty bad matchup. But again, it's a 4-game slate, and you can even get, the Ricky Rubio triple-double inefficient, special where he gets, 11 assists and 10 rebounds and, sort of does his own Rondo dealio. And I do slightly prefer Rubio for that reason. It's a really tough spot for Booker and for Oubre as well. And I'm a big Kelly Oubre fan. I've called that guy's name a lot of times this year, and it's worked out pretty well. But I have a lot of trouble getting to those guys today. I like Rubio a little bit more than either of them.
Just got another question here. Thoughts on KCP at 4,300 on FanDuel? That is not something that I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can hope they get back towards the top of the minutes room. We've seen a couple decent games recently, but I would have ranked him, so I would have played him, but it would have been a really small amount. So it's a hell of a stand if you're playing one lineup, and if you're playing 150 and you have 2 or 3, that's fine for me. I'd prefer him with his scoring profile on DraftKings, all else being equal, but not out of play on a 4-game slate.
Let's see what else we've got here. FanDuel Cash, Gorgeous Dong and AD, or Randall and Whiteside, assuming you already have Lillard and McCollum. I would be Randall and Whiteside, I assume.
Yeah, I would have Randall and Whiteside.
Actually,
the
Gorgeous Dong
really
is quite owned. It probably is.
It's really close.
Yeah,
that's.
It's probably Gorgeous Dong and
weird
Brow, actually.
I have. I will look at what I did, but again, I don't have all my access to all my resources down here, so my projections were first through. I have. So the weird thing for me is having McCollum and Lillard already makes me want the Whiteside side more because he said cash. Like, there's no way 2 of those guys aren't. You know what I'm saying? Like, those 3 guys have to somehow come up with a conglomerate of 134 fantasy points. Like, unless you think Melo is going to go out and drop 64 today, which, again, we already discussed. But against the Knicks, there's really no way that Lillard, Whiteside, and McCollum don't serve some sort of decent cash base.
Yeah.
All 3 of them probably will be good, but 2 of them probably will be, and maybe the other guy isn't that bad, and maybe they all get there. They certainly did the last time they played in very limited time. So I actually end up being in cash a little more inclined to be like, okay, now I know I can't get screwed. Because like if I play just Lillard and McCollum and Whiteside goes off and has a 40-20 game and both those guys suck, like if I put that's sort of weird, but I sort of enjoy stacking up more in cash than in tournaments often for that reason. Like against the Knicks, how little are they really going to score? And other than, Melo, who the hell is going to, do it here? So I don't know. But yeah, that would be basically a dead tie for me.
Okay.
I think because I have those other 2 in cash, I would actually take the Whiteside side.
That's fair. Let's upload these lineups here so I can feel a little bit more comfortable. Done.
Thoughts on $4,400 Portis on DK? I think it's fine on a 4-game slate. I like it more than KCP just because a little more likely to bust out some sort of significant upside in 21 minutes or something. It doesn't correlate well with obviously Mitchell Robinson or probably anyone else on the Knicks starters. So I don't think it correlates terribly well with, say, Elf, because it's going to, be an example of something that'll likely get there in the event of a blowout. So things like that. But assuming you take that into account, I have no issue with Portis. I
have no Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I would have ranked him as a D and a C or something. But, I think there is some chance they get blown out and he randomly gets the blowout run, or you get big Mitch foul trouble. 4-game slate, I'd play some, but pretty similar to KCP. I probably prefer the play to KCP again because it's just a little more likely you randomly catch 40 out of Bobby Portis because he will just shoot the rock a ton. And
dude likes to shoot, that's for sure. Dude likes to shoot.
So, yeah. And it's not that hard to, spin scenario with Mitch gets a lot of foul trouble on Whiteside real quick. Or,
Yeah. 3 minutes to go before we are locked on the first slate of 2020 in the NBA. Kind of excited.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man.
I'm looking
forward to doing. Well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more shows with you. You told me we could once we get done with football.
Football is close. Almost done, man. We are almost done. Thank God. I'm happy for it to be gone. I don't enjoy it at all. It's an inferior sport to basketball.
Well, that is obviously true. Shout out for David Stern, by the way. Say what you will. The guy was aloof and not the best relationship with the players, but literally oversaw the NBA when it went from being less than what hockey is now to being very possibly the dominant sport on the landscape on a worldwide scale. I mean,
yeah.
Say what you will about that guy, but yeah.
Sad to see. He revolutionized this sport from an administrative perspective.
Yeah, he really did. Never met him. Met a lot of guys who worked in the league office. Never shook hands with him. Never met him actually. But yeah. I mean, when I was born, they were showing the NBA Finals on tape delay. That's the story everyone always says, and it's true.
Yeah. Oh no. We just got a $5 super chat from Dave. Happy New Year. Another big year for the Osimo team is coming. I haven't seen Dave in Slack in like a couple days.
Oh boy.
I was so excited. But now I'm excited because the super chat came in. So thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate it. Happy New Year to you as well. And we've got some trolls back. Now they're not trolling me any longer for being a Chinese spy. They seem to think that one Ed Fear likes men, which why is that a bad thing?
First of all, that's an odd thing to insult. Second one, is it my pink Louis Vuitton sunglasses that are giving you that impression? I love everybody, including men, so deal with it.
Yeah, we agree. 1 minute to go. Actually, 30 seconds to go before we are locked. January 1st, 2020. Craziness, man. I can't believe it's 2020.
I couldn't get, isn't it so weird? 2020. Shout out to Eminem. Remember that shit hit 20 years ago? Fucking. I was upset I couldn't get Osmo to do a show with me. He's like 10 miles down the road.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you're like, yeah, he was right here, and we were going to get together and have dinner, and we didn't actually manage to hook up whatsoever. But I was like, I thought people would get a giant kick out of there, like live from Mexico. Aha! Just like have him walk into frame.
It would be pretty awesome. And there we are. We are locked. 6 p.m. Means it's time for the most entertaining game in the history of games. Daddy likes.
It's a bold statement.
We're just going to assume it's true.
Okay.
I need them to. Yes, I know the contest has already started. I'm not trying to join it. I want the CSV. Go to contest lobby. No. Okay, we're working on it. DraftKings contest data.
But I had a fun trip. I got to do lots of volleyball and lots of singing and lots of. It was fun. It was fun. And apparently clandestine relationships with strange men.
Yes, apparently that is also happening. Congratulations to you for that one.
Yeah. If you're gonna insult me, try to do something that I actually consider insulting.
Yeah, which is, not that for sure.
Yeah.
What am I looking for? DraftKings.
Ownership, I assume.
I can't even get to the CSV yet. I'm working on it though.
We just have the one. Just the Orlando Washington game. I'm hoping Washington. Just like Baltimore, if you're from there. And I think Adam is. Balmer. That's right. No T whatsoever. If you pronounce the T, you're not from there. Balmer.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We've got ownership.
Okay. How many people are double digit owned?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. One of which is massively higher than the rest of the guys.
Well, whenever that happens, it's always value. So I'll say Terrence Ross randomly spiked massive.
You would be incorrect. Terrence Ross second.
Okay. So Vooch? It's got to be Vooch.
Kola Vucevic, 46.1% ownership.
I thought we had him a little lower. We had him in the 30s. I thought he'd get closer to 40, but 46 is even more than I would have thought. I
have half
hate it.
that.
I mean, there are other quality options. Beelin, I like the game staying close a little bit. Had a monster one here. I mean, talking about the games earlier this year is kind of irrelevant because, again, you had like one starter the same on this Washington team. So he did not see a lot of Jan Mahinmi and Andres Pastrnak in his previous games this year. So it's not much to really take away from that. But that's a big number. It's a great play. I would have more than half that, but I would have less than that. I suspect that. I thought he'd be 35 to 40, and that's about where I would have gone.
Yeah. Terrence Ross is second. You did get that correct. 32% on Ross right now.
All right. So other guys.
So you have 5 more to go in double digits.
All right. This is DraftKings.
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be basically everyone on the Magic. So I'll say Fultz, Augustine, Fournier. I'll say Fultz, Augustine, and Fournier. Give me those 3. Do I have those 3?
You do have them.
Okay,
they are in the group.
2 more. So 2 more. I will sadly say that Beal is going to get double digits.
He did indeed.
Okay. So I have a guy left.
Yes. He's 4th overall.
4th overall. Wow. All right. So I'm missing someone I shouldn't be missing. I'll say John Isaac, but I don't think that's it.
John Isaac, 29%.
So they just stacked it up. So Isaiah Thomas did not make 10%.
He did not. 5% only. He's owned less than Gary Payton.
That's wrong. I don't know how many. I admire Gary Payton and I admire his dad, but he's like your age, among other. It's just like he's not a baby or something. Like Gary Payton's got to be in his late 20s and isn't going to get 7 steals a game.
No, he's not.
And Bradley Beal is back. So and he played like 15 minutes the last game with Bradley Beal out. So yeah, bad people game log watching.
So here's what we've got. Fournier is at 20 or is at 30. John Isaac 29. DJ Augustine 24. Brad Beal 17. Markelle Fultz 17. 14.
Nice job about ownership rankings, by the way, on Beal. But they missed by 1%.
Yeah,
2% or whatever. Nice job there.
Jan Mahinmi.
I'd still want more, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to keep reading them off. Jan Mahinmi at 8. Jordan McRae at 8. Wes Iwundu at 7.5. Peyton at 4.5. Isaiah Thomas at 4.5. Mo Bamba at 3.5. Ish Smith at 3. Troy Brown at 2.5. Pastrnak at 2.5. Garrison Matthews got some ownership finally, 1.5.
Ooh.
Jonathan Williams, 1.5. And then Davis Bertans, 0.64%. Sorry, brothers. You played yourself.
They did indeed. They did.
Well, sir, you go enjoy Mexico.
I shall.
Enjoy your vacation. I am going to go chill for a little bit, and then I will be back behind the virtual glass. Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin, PGA Live Before Lock, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Century Tournament of Champions. Tune in. Golf guys are back.
Brilliant.
The golf guys are back. Best of luck, everybody. We're out of here.